welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you are here. For some reason, I was having a little bit of a hiccup trying to switch over. I don't know why that seems to be an issue. It all goes all according to plan in the head, and then when you get there, it's like, okay, what is going on? But yeah, welcome back. I am so glad that you are here. If you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and be a part of the family because we would love to have you. And of course, as you can see the title, we are talking about the Teresa and Louie's big day. And that is Teresa from Real Housewives of New Jersey. So yeah, did you watch this special? Did you enjoy it? Let me know your thoughts. If you're watching me live, hit that in the chat area. If you're watching the replay, hit that in the comment section. I would so love to know. Now, I have a lot that I want to share about last night's episode. But yeah, again, I definitely want to know what your thoughts are. So I guess it would be nice to kind of just go ahead and get started. And let's just go ahead and get into really the schematics of one of the biggest days I think that we have seen for Teresa, other than the birth of her children, right? I mean, she's had Adriana, I believe, on the show, and she's had some other, obviously, big moments, some infamous moments. So yeah, this was a nice one to see. So let's go ahead and get into that. And let's go ahead and switch this out. There we go. So of course, the wedding was absolutely stunning. It was gorgeous. We had already saw reports and different articles about that. And I mean, it was just gorgeous, right? Gorgeous people, gorgeous setting, gorgeous everything. It was a beautiful, beautiful wedding. Now, the hair seemed to have mixed reviews, but overall, I'll be honest with you, in the magazines or, there are different articles that I would have seen, I was a little like, okay, I mean, it's different. Hey, you do you, boo. But seeing her actually on the show, it really was beautiful. And it really, really looked great on her. She pulled it off. I don't know if too many people could have pulled it off quite the way that she did, but she did. So I think that it was a fantastic choice. I think the hairdresser did a wonderful job with it. It was kind of funny to hear the back and forth between the daughters and what they thought and some of the other friends. And I think Dorinda, because at first I thought Margaret had said that she didn't care for the hair, but I think it was Dorinda. Let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I kind of replayed that a couple of times to make sure I had it right, but I think it was Dorinda that said that. And so I was a little shocked, but Dorinda, I mean, she kind of will just tell you how she feels. So it is what it is. I mean, we can appreciate her for that. We love her. And by the way, she needs to get back on our screens. But yeah, I mean, unbelievable how gorgeous that wedding was. But you know what? Bravo has showcased many beautiful weddings. Nini's wedding, her actual vows that she did with Greg, and also Candy's wedding to Todd. Both beautiful, beautiful ceremonies. Oh, and then Cynthia Bailey's, right? Unfortunately, we didn't get Portia's wedding, but we saw in other modalities, and her weddings, plural, were absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And so, and I don't know if I missed anybody. I think I might have covered everyone. Hopefully I did. But nevertheless, it's always a nice presentation, isn't it? So, the beginning of the special starts like they all do, where they met, how they fell in love, what they thought of each other in the beginning. And it's clear from everything that I feel that we've seen from jump that Teresa and Louie have been smitten with each other from day one. Now, there may be some controversy as to why that is, but nevertheless, we're going to stay on the positive because there's plenty of challenging areas to cover in regards to yesterday's episode and honestly what happened in the wedding, which there are some things that I just was shaking my head about. And I don't know if you were, but if you were, let me know, because I was not, I was just shaking my head. But anyway, so they definitely talked about it. I mean, the special took place about 2 days prior to the actual wedding day. So we got to see the lovey-doveyness of it all. We got to see the rehearsal dinner as well, which was beautiful. And we also got to find out at that point that Veronica, which is Louis' sister, was actually going to be presiding over the wedding ceremony for them too. So I thought that was pretty special. And it does make a point to see why we saw so much of her as well in the last episode, maybe an episode and a half, in regards to the build up to the season finale for Real Housewives of New Jersey. By the way, if you haven't got a chance to check that live out that I did, I guess it was last week sometime, go ahead and, make sure you hit that before you leave the platform. But yeah, that was interesting to hear that. And I thought, well, okay, well, that makes it even, even nicer, even sweeter. Now, one thing that bothered me, unfortunately, it just did, was the whole concept about the chosen family. Teresa is only has one sibling. And the fact that Joe and Melissa were not there should trouble her immensely. Now, I know that there's a lot of people on either sides of the situation, and I do believe I mentioned in the season finale recap and review that I really am not team either one. But I do not agree with a lot of how Teresa has handled herself with Melissa. And I still am trying to figure out what exactly was the issue in the first place. I mean, I remember going back to the episode when Melissa and Joe were introduced, and it was, at the christening, and that turned into a catastrophe. It was another beautiful event turned into just really a sad scenario. And at the end of the day, it's still only thing that seemed to come out of it was Teresa's upsetness about, and upsetness is probably not the right word, but her being upset about Melissa and Joe joining the show, which I don't even understand why that is. And I had shared my thoughts and my feelings about that in my last live, that I just didn't think that, that is not a reason to be upset. And I didn't understand why this would be an issue. Why couldn't this be an embracing moment at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, Teresa doesn't own the show. But nevertheless, it seems to be from that point on a bunch of ridiculousness from one end to the other, and a lot of back and forth. And that is really leaving the show in peril, not to mention maybe even the family structure, if all of what we see is all that it is. So I guess we'll just have to see further on. But let's get back on in to the actual wedding ceremony. So, of course, we got to see that, and that was nice. We got to see Dolores shared that her and Teresa were friends for 38 years. I knew they had a long friendship, but I didn't know it was 38 years. Like, it's a whole lifetime. And so I can see why there is so much of a connection between Dolores and Teresa, because honestly, I thought they may have been friends like maybe 10 years, something like that. I did not imagine it was 38 years. So again, a whole lifetime of friendship and ups and downs that we're seeing, being there for those special moments, being there for moments that were not so great. So, Dolores has seen it all. And she's also seen a lot from the perspective of Melissa and Joe as well, because Dolores has been that kind of in-between friend, right? I mean, really, it's almost like trying to choose one side of the family for another. And I know that's hard for Dolores. And it's really darn right sad that that's even what she has to do. Because I like Melissa. I think Melissa is great. I love Joe. I think he's great. I think they're great together as a couple. I do not understand the constant rumors and all that kind of foolishness and trying to destroy their marriage base. I don't understand any of that. But, let's continue. So, of course, in the beginning, I guess Gabriella, one of Teresa's daughters, is just having the realization or just being told that Joe is not going to be there. Her Uncle Joe, right? Her dear Joe is not going to be at the wedding. And, Teresa says, no, he's not coming. She asked, did he text? No, she didn't text. She may even ask if he called it. No, because that was the least that he could have done. And I just was thinking to myself, like, there's a reason why we have that statement, a child in a child's place. And this is such an example of that. At the end of the day, whatever seriousness or non-seriousness situation going on between Teresa and her brother, this is not something that should be flooding over to the children. But unfortunately, because you have both generational entities on social media, and then the show itself, and everything being all kind of combined together, it makes it difficult for anyone to really be able to be separated from what is going on. But at the same time, even with that, my thought is, you need to be able to understand when you should be involved and when you shouldn't be involved. And just the expression and the way that Gabrielle was responding in regards to her feelings about just even hearing her uncle's name being mentioned tells you right there how inappropriate it is for the children to be involved in the adult situations, because children do not have the ability to, process things in a way that is doesn't break them down to the fifth entity. I mean, and at the end of the day, whatever is going on between Teresa and Joe, does that have anything to do with the children? I don't think it does. And you never see Melissa and Joe's children having any real reaction, but then, you really don't see them on TV much at all. So maybe that's probably the reason. I don't know. You give me your thoughts about that. Doesn't mean that they don't have things. I'm sure the things that Teresa has brought up, down to the rumors, down to just the sheer disrespect, all of those things that have taken place, I cannot imagine that Melissa's kids do not have some type of opinion. So it is nice that we don't see that opinion being aired, because it's really sad when, it could be all fun and games when the adults are going at it. But when you start bringing in the children and they're dragged into the situation, it's really heartbreaking to watch. And we're seeing a continued generational trauma from one to the other, because as we all would recall, if you've been watching the show from its inception, or even just from the last, 10 years or so, because I don't even know how long Real Housewives of New Jersey's been on. But when they had Kathy, and that was her name, I couldn't remember, but cousin Kathy, Teresa's cousin, and Rosie, when they were on, that's how we found out about the rift or whatever was going on between Teresa and Joe's father, and Kathy and Rose's mother. I think I'm correct on that, because it was an issue between, their aunt with their father and their sister and brother. And so the sadness that has been left is a legacy of continued discontentment and this furthering of the wedge from generation to generation. And I just think that's such a sad legacy to leave. And don't really know all of the particulars of why Joe's and Teresa's mother or father, and his sister fell out. Don't know. But again, it is just so unfortunate that they were not able to mend the rift or get it to a point where there was support continued on for the generation, so that they wouldn't repeat the mistakes of them. So, it's all a mess. It's just really unfortunate. It really was really, truly, truly unfortunate. But here we have it. So, again, let's move on. And I tell you, I really had some opinions about this. I really felt so oh my gosh, this is so unnecessary and it's so heartbreaking. And they're carrying a burden, them being the daughters of Teresa, that they don't or should not be carrying. This is adult situation, right? And I understand Gia's 21, whatever. At the end of the day, this is between her mother and her uncle. And that's where it should stay. There shouldn't be commentary from the children about their uncle. You don't know all of what's going on. We don't know all that's going on. And we are at the least not going to know all that's going on, right? But at the end of the day, this is why we have that statement, a child in child's place, right? So that's my thoughts. I'm sure there's people who feel different about that. Some that may feel like it's okay that Gia shares how she feels and the way that she's done it. And that's another thing. It's okay to have the conversations. It's okay to have, concerns that you want to address, but sometimes it's the way that it's done, the way it's said. And, it can come along as, borderline or direct disrespect. And, when we're talking about a situation where it's family, then that's supposed to mean something. That's just not words. So yeah, and that's why I say, going back to Teresa's concept of the chosen family, and now it's a thing, right? It became one statement, and now it's kind of been this running thing over the last 3 episodes to include this special. And I'm just saying, you're a chosen family. Okay. All right. Whatever. At the end of the day, you don't want to find yourself in a position where you're the only one on that island. Okay. And I just think that at some point, but I don't know if it will happen, because it's a generational thing. This is what you're seeing going on, and everybody's frustrated. Everybody's upset. So it's just, it's unfortunate. It really just is unfortunate. But anyway, so going back, Teresa is shocked, obviously, about the fact, or maybe she wasn't. She did say she was relieved in the season finale that, Melissa and Joe were not going to be there. So, I don't really know which to be shocked about, but she is. They did go and talk about the different individuals who were going to be in the bridal party and in the groom's party. And notably for Teresa, all of her daughters are there. We know that Jennifer and Dolores and then others are also in her bridal party. And then notably, we know that Louis has Bill as one of his groomsmen, not Joe, but Bill. But of course, we wouldn't be shocked about that, right? They're not getting along. He would not be there. So, yeah, that was something that was notable. Yeah, so let's see what else we had here. Dolores and Jennifer were also having some time when what was it, the rehearsal dinner. We see, everybody that was going to be there in attendance, which usually obviously the bridal party and groom's party, and family, close family, whatever. Dolores and Jennifer arrive as well, and they're having a conversation with Gia. And I believe Jennifer is the one that brings up the situation with Joe. And I just think that was unnecessary, but Jennifer does a lot of unnecessary things. And, so that was the issue there. Now, of course, I felt, and you tell me your thoughts here, but I felt that Dolores was definitely trying to bridge Gia that you want to try to do steps to kind of repair the situation, because if you continue to keep moving forward in this separative way, it's going to be harder to get back into the future or back into the future. It'll be harder to get back together in the future. But then I kind of felt like Jennifer was more or less like cheering on the separation, like, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. Sometimes this is what it is. And so I didn't like that. That kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong on that front. I just felt like Dolores was trying to be, a bridge for them, trying to create that kind of bridge atmosphere. Whereas Jennifer was kind of like, burn down everything kind of thing. And I don't know. I don't know. I wonder what's behind that. I wonder what the motive is behind that. Is there a motive? I kind of feel there might be. Someone might say, what motive could it possibly be? I don't know, because it makes no sense that you wouldn't want to be, hey, trying to get along. I don't think it's always so good to be so up somebody's, what, that you can't see certain things for what they are. And, having a bunch of yes people around you all the time, people who are not able to tell you, hey, that stuff is not all right, or call you on things. I don't think that's a very safe place to be in with people around you who you actually care about. Anyone that's randomly, outside of your circle, that doesn't apply to. But for people who are in your circle, people that you do lean on for advice or for friendship or whatever the case may be, it just seems that it would be nice to see Jennifer take a more of a high road instead of the low road that Jennifer so excitably likes to go down. But that was that. So yeah, of course the disappointment was brought up. It was going to be brought up. It's kind of the thing that everybody's thinking about, not just about Teresa's wedding, but how sad that Joe and Melissa are not there, and that they should have been there. They really should have been there. And to know that the reason why they're not there is for again, another rumor about the same kind of crap yet again. It's just, it's really disgusting, honestly. And is what is going on, that this seems to be continual, like it's just always an attack on the wedding, on their marriage. And then, of course, Melissa and Joe don't feel comfortable. Why am I going to go celebrate your wedding when you could care crap about ours? Right or wrong to any one of us is irregardless, but that's what she is dealing with. That's what they're dealing with as a unit. And I would expect Joe to be supporting his wife. I would expect Joe to be there, because I bet you believe that no matter what Teresa says or does, if Louis is jumping ship on her, and I know that he had his moments where he was kind of coming at Teresa a little bit, but at the end of the day, he's going to have Teresa's back, and that's what we expect of Joe for Melissa. So that's just that. Yeah, so Teresa does share about her mother-in-law, how she's very excited about, his family, again, the chosen family. And, she feels like his mother is a lot like her mother, and she would have loved to have met them, if her mother and father were, here with them. So, may they continue to rest in peace. And we got FedEx coming. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I can. Hopefully that didn't disturb you. But anyways, yeah, so that was that. And I was sitting there thinking that Teresa had let it, I don't think she really let it slip. I think she meant to say that, that her mother would have loved Louis because she didn't really want her with Joe. And I find that to be interesting because I would wonder, would the girls have an issue with their grandmother? I mean, at the end of the day, it seems to me that if Teresa's mother had her way, those girls wouldn't even be here. Okay. So, I mean, again, all in perspective and staying out of things that don't really concern you because they really don't. And Teresa using them as a sounding board in adult situations that they should not be involved in is not appropriate either. And some people may have different opinions on that, but that's just what mine is. So, but you feel free to share your thoughts on that. At the end of the day, you need to keep the kids out of things because they had a good relationship. And yeah, there were some things that were said, but again, we talk about, this is not a situation where Joe and Melissa were right in everything they did, right? There were things that they said, apparently, going out on social media and sharing things that, wasn't appropriate. So what do you expect for as a consequence, right? If you're going to go after that person, then yeah, they're probably going to come back after you. This is really territory that is very sensitive. We're talking about family members and all that good stuff. And everybody in the world is getting to watch the breakdown just as you're dealing with it. So I can understand those types of things. So no one's necessarily been right in this situation or all the way right, even if you felt, well, you hurt me, so therefore I got to do something to 10 times hurt you. Everybody's hurt. Everything is fractured. Now, you don't even have just the nieces that are not cool with their uncle anymore, who they were extremely close with, and who Gia had said in a playback that she thought of him as a second father. I mean, come on. We are now down to this. And not to mention that now the cousins are not cool with their cousins. Like, this is not okay. So I do hope at some point, and it doesn't require Louis, honestly. I get it if you have a spouse that wants to be there and is supportive of, hey, let's get you guys together. And I'm all for that. But this is between Joe and Teresa. And once you get them two together and them two talking and them two getting down to what the root of the problem is, then you start to move out from those two and then drop in Melissa. Maybe Joe needs to be a part of that conversation too. I don't know, because at the end of the day, Joe is still the girl's father and he's still in their life. And maybe there needs to be conversation that, but none of this conversation needs to include Louis. Louis just got here in the picture, a couple of years ago or so. He's not there for the start to the finish. This does not need his input. He can support his wife on the other side, right? At home or whatever, but he doesn't have to be in the middle of it. Teresa is more than capable of handling her own younger brother. So at the end of the day, I think that's where it needs to start. And then Melissa would need to give Joe that space. And I don't think that Melissa wouldn't. Now, some people might think that otherwise. They may feel like, yeah, she would get in the middle of it. I don't know if she would, because at the end of the day, this isn't benefiting her. Your spouse being upset and estranged from his family is not a good thing. This is not something you would celebrate. So, and I don't think that Melissa's that type either. But nevertheless, of course, Teresa is very excited about her chosen family. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Louis' father, he seems to be very enamored with Teresa as well. And, Louis does get, share. And I don't think Louis seems to have much of an issue about sharing about himself. I thought that was very open of him and warm of him to share his struggles with his father, that they did not get along very well because his father was an alcoholic. And now he's a recovered alcoholic, recovered over 8 years now. And so, lots of trials and tribulations throughout that relationship. But Louis is very proud that they have been able to get themselves mended and in a position where his father is able to be at his wedding. And so I think that was really special. And I appreciate that for Louis to express that, because I think that will help people. I mean, I think that there's a lot of families who are dealing with estrangement. It's very unfortunate, and it can be for many varied reasons, but you never know what someone is going through, right? You never know what the situation can be. So the fact that Louis has shared that, he expressed that, I think that will probably be helpful to somebody. And it does show, an additional human side to him, right? And it also shows, possibly his I mean, I don't know. I would have felt this way before the last two episodes that I saw about him just going off on Joe. But, prior to that, when he was trying to do the mending, it kind of made sense that, yeah, he would want to be a proponent of that because he seemed to be a proponent of therapy, a proponent of wanting to bridge those gaps. Because, again, sometimes when we are looking at someone else's situation, we put ourselves into that situation, and that may not always be the most objective way to do things. It just depends if you know how to kind of step in and out of that and focus where the focus is and where it needs to be, which is on them, not you. So I would like to think that he tried and was really interested in seeing them kind of band together and be together. And I think he would have felt very happy about it for himself, of course, because he would have been that. Yes, so that's what that was at. But I appreciated the sharing of that complicated relationship because so many people, I'm sure, could relate to that. And just because you see people on TV and pretty people have problems too, don't they? Okay. Everyone, we all got our issues. We all have things that we may be going through. And if you're not dealing with those types of things, that is such a wonderful blessing because you just never know, right? You just never know. But yeah, it was nice to see both his parents being able to be in attendance at the wedding with all his family. And he has a huge family, right? So that was really great to see. So yeah, then we pretty much see the toast. The toasts were beautiful, of course. Everybody seems to be very much in just all involved, excited to be there. And this is Teresa's dream, right? This is what she's wanted. I'm sure obviously Louis too, but just speaking on Teresa, because Teresa is who we know for continuity purposes, right? From day one. Teresa just wants to be happy. So in this moment, she is truly, truly happy, and you can see it. And it's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, we then move on to the next day, which is the wedding. And yeah, everything is just all the go, right? We started off seeing Teresa getting ready and hair and makeup. The bridesmaids starting to get ready, hair and makeup, including her daughters. And then things start to turn a little bit, but not before one of the young ladies that was actually at the hospital where Teresa's father was, she says, visiting, during his time and when he was ill. And she became very close friends. Her name was Angie, and she was close friends with the family. And she had sent a really beautiful message to Teresa, texted her this really, really beautiful message, and letting her know that your father would be so proud of you. Both your parents would be so proud of you. And, they're there with you and they love you. And it was so, oh my gosh, it was so heartwarming. And my heart went out to Teresa in that one because I can only imagine how difficult that must have been. And, she shares that she woke up in the morning and spoke to her parents and says, hey, you guys are with me, right? We're in the city. We're going to have a great day. And, oh, God, I feel a little bit, I'm going to tear up now because it was just such a beautiful message. It was such a thoughtful thing for their friend Angie to do. And, at the end of the day, this is really one of Teresa's best days of her life. And she would have wanted nothing more than to have both her parents, of course, with Joe aside and all the drama aside with that, she would have loved to have both her parents there. So it's unfortunate that that did not happen, but we know that her parents are looking down on her and, they were there for her on a special day. And I do believe that as well. And yeah, and I think they would have been happy with, how everything unfolded. It would have been interesting to know what their thoughts would have been of Louis, but we'd hope that it would have been all of what Teresa feels that they would have been. So Teresa was so honest about how her mom felt about Joe. So, but we just want everybody to be happy. So yeah. Oh, and so that was nice to see that. And of course, Jennifer comes over in Jennifer fashion, because we have to have a little bit of drama. As if putting a wedding together isn't enough. But she had actually made a beautiful trinket, a beautiful jeweled piece to pin on her, which is a picture of Teresa's parents. And so she wanted to, ask Teresa to come and, steal away a moment so she can give her beautiful gift. And Teresa absolutely loved it, right? King Diamonds are a girl's best friend. So that was also a very nice touch. Jennifer comes up with the beautiful pieces. I think one of her brothers is a jeweler. So they come up with absolutely exquisite pieces. And that was, nothing short of exquisite. And it was very heartfelt and very loving. And, I kind of felt when Jennifer was having a conversation with Dolores and Gia the day before, that she felt a little bit bad about how things unfolded with her brother. Because, Jennifer is very close with her brothers, probably, I think she has two of them, and she's very close to them. And so I feel that she had a moment there where she felt bad, because this again was a rumor that she told Danielle, that Danielle felt that it was important to repeat to Melissa in the moment that it was. And I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Let me know in the chat or in the comment section. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that, Danielle maybe should have just waited, maybe even after the wedding? Because clearly the wedding seemed to be super close to when Paulie and Dolores had their Renaissance or Prohibition party. Because I don't know. Again, I don't believe it. Danielle didn't believe it. And I understand the reasons why Danielle wanted to tell Melissa, because she didn't want to be that person that would be smiling in Melissa's face, knowing that things are being talked about. But I have a funny feeling Melissa's probably used to that anyways. But at the end of the day, this is a rumor. I don't believe it. I'm sure there may be some that might want to believe it. And I think there's a lot that don't believe it. And I just figure, why couldn't I have just waited? I mean, at the end of the day, why not? Because it just seems like we're at the precipice of the situation. Now, I don't know what would have happened if Melissa, no one does anyways, what would have happened if Melissa had went to the wedding with Joe? Would it have went off the way it was supposed to be? Would it have been too much doting on the other family and just continually dismissing Melissa and Joe? I mean, no one knows. I would hate to think that that's what would have taken place, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But it was sad. It was unnecessary. And here we are yet again. But yeah, it was just a really, really unfortunate situation on that. But Jennifer brings up the fact, after giving the beautiful trinket to Teresa, that she's sorry. That she was sorry that her telling Danielle caused this situation, and that she feels that she was a big part and has some responsibility in the reason why Joe and Melissa are not there. And here's a moment where I kind of felt like, I don't know, I guess Teresa's in a bad position to really say how she feels in any kind of way. But rather than just say, well, I mean, I wish it didn't happen, she then goes and says, oh, well, this is not your fault. They made their decision. She made their decision. They made their decision. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, no compassion and no empathy. None at all. I mean, none, so I'm not here for it. So of course, Jennifer, I'm sure maybe feels completely relieved, because her Queen Teresa has told her, look, you're off the hook. Don't worry about it. You opening your mouth means nothing. But here's the thing that I find so interesting about Jennifer, right? Jennifer lost her ever-loving mind when, what's her name? Margaret shared about a real situation, okay? Between Bill and Jennifer. Now, me personally, I wouldn't have brought that into the fold. But we all know that the reason why that was done is because Margaret had enough of Jennifer continually attacking her and making her like she was this harlot of an individual, which, depending on where you fall on the situation, you may think that. But she just kept on attacking. So Margaret said, you know what? You're going to keep on coming after me. I got something for you. And that's what she did. So here we are again, another situation, because don't forget, we have the Jackie Schneider. Is that her last name? Schneider? Well, Jackie, her and her husband, that rumor that was like, I think 2 seasons ago, that was getting started, that he was, I don't know, messing around, had some interaction with some female. And Jackie lost her crap because she's like, that's not true. It's a rumor, blah, 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 blah. And Jennifer was fully engaged in that. So it just seems like she's really here for the participation of rumored situations, but she isn't here for the reality of what's really going on, like what happened with her. I just wonder, where is the compassion or the empathy? Why are we making up stories about you, or not you, but other people? Why is that was supposed to be deflective for what was happening to you? It just doesn't make any sense. But so is most of the stuff that happened this season. Made no sense. But anyway, so there goes that. And then all of a sudden, you hear this sound why is Gabrielle yelling, crying? What is she crying for? Why is she crying? She's never cried. And I swear to you, if you go back, go back to, I don't know what season it is, but it would be the last season reunion where Rosie and Kathy were in. And Rosie was in the back. And all of a sudden, Teresa says something about their father. And Rosie lost her mind. She said she was going to unalive her. She said, let her say something else one more time. Let her bring up my father again. She will end her. I mean, it was, oh my gosh, if Melania did not sound like her second cousin, Rosie. It literally felt like it was Rosie yelling in there. And I'm just sitting there, again, another estranged family member for unnecessary reasons. Not unnecessary to them, I'm sure, because, now that so much time has gone by and life has moved on and they're just entrenched in whatever they're feeling. And clearly nobody is making a move that direction, which is extremely sad because I loved Rosie and I think Rosie was a great addition. Kathy was a great addition. They were a great addition to the fold. I mean, like, honestly, if Teresa had just let it all happen, this would have been a whole family deal. And we were here for it. We loved it. The Manzos had it with Dina and Caroline and their family. They had it. So why couldn't Teresa have that? Why was that an issue? Why did it only have to be one person? It just didn't make any sense to me. But nevertheless, an opportunity, not happened upon. But yeah, when I saw that, and I had to rewind that a couple of times because I was like, who's yelling? And, Gabrielle is crying because she's hearing her uncle being brought up. And she's saying that it's obviously because she doesn't want her mother to be upset, that this is her day, and she's just tired of people bringing him up. That's not the only reason why she's upset, but I understand she's feeling protective of her mother. This is what children tend to do. The problem is, and there's lots of issues with this, it's not their job to protect their mother. It's their mother's job to protect them. And that's my feeling on that. At the end of the day, this is why you keep them out of things that they don't need to be in. And then you can explain things the way you need to explain them so that they don't feel a tug of war between the two. And that's not what was happening. Clearly, that's not what was happening. And I understand Teresa has been through a lot of things, but so is Joe and Melissa. And at the end of the day, Teresa used them as individuals, that they're her daughters, but it's also her built-in support system, isn't it? And those lines definitely get blurred and crossed. And it happens in all families. It happens all the time. Doesn't mean it's correct. Doesn't mean it's correct. And now they're taking this to the social media streets. It's only going to entrench it more. So I don't know what the future is, but again, we're going to just stick with the wedding because that's going to coming up in the reunions starting next week. But here we go. So when I heard that, and of course, Teresa's like, looking like, what is that? And same look that she had, almost not identical, but almost to what she had about Rose. Like, who's yelling like that? When Kat's like, who's yelling, But yeah, it was just insane how much alike they sounded. But yeah, it was just sad. And so of course Teresa comes out there to find out what's happening, and she's like, he's bringing up, uncle, and bringing her up again, and da 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 da. And she's upset, and Gabrielle is crying because she's sad, because it is sad. And and I'm glad to see that there was emotion there. But Gia had shared about the fact that and I think it was a little bit earlier, that when she found out that they were not going to go to the wedding, she was like, okay, well, that means we're all done. And I'm just like, no, honestly, it doesn't have to mean you're all done, but again, here we go. And this is how it goes. So it's just sad. It really is sad. Maybe at some point they'll bridge a gap somewhere, because all this family, all these opportunities, all these ceremonies, all these wonderful things that are going to continue, God willing, for them to happen, and people are going to be missing that should be there in those frames. People who are here now, as if you don't understand what it feels like to find a way to bridge a gap where you can bridge one. Now, if you're in a situation where, look, you cannot, and you and that sibling and you and that family member, and it's just a no ma situation, then it's just a no ma situation. I personally don't feel that's the way for Teresa, Melissa, and Joe. I don't think that's a no ma situation. I think that they could sit down and have a conversation, but you've got to have someone in there to help them navigate that. Now, I know that fake therapy session that they did on that episode so many years ago, where Joe and Joe were fighting and hair dye was all over the place, and that was ineffective altogether. That's not what I mean. But they need something else, and someone else who actually wants to see them. Maybe Dolores would be a good pick. But, I see Dolores may have a bit of an issue with Joe next week. So, I may end up eating my words on that. But, nevertheless, Teresa comes out, comforts Melania, gets her to a point, kind of like, calm down, we're fine. They were just talking. There's nothing wrong. It's okay. Teresa wasn't losing her mind about it. And I think that was the appropriate way to be when Joe's name was brought up. Jennifer was just giving a gift. She shared, I was just giving her a gift, and we're talking. And you know why? Again, another example of why kids in a kid's place, because you're overhearing them talking. And just because you hear the name, you feel you got to run like a lion, when people should be affected like that are not. Not in that moment. Is she sad? Yes. But does she have responsibility and accountability in that situation? Yes. So we'll see what all goes down with that. But and nevertheless, she gets her quiet down. Everything is good. And we are moving on. And as you can see, I had to definitely drop this down because I didn't want to miss it. It's so funny because there's so much going on. You want to catch it all. But yeah, when the wedding starts, to come at this point, everybody is coming in, and you start seeing the many guests. I mean, we got to see a lot of Bravo celebrities, didn't we? We got Dorinda. Of course, we had Margaret, who we knew was going to be there. Jennifer, Dolores, obviously, we knew they were going to be in the wedding. We got to see Phaedra. We got to see Iman from Real Housewives of Dubai. Who else we got to see? We got to see... oh my gosh, there's so many of them. Jill Zarin, for those who love Jill. We got to see Ashley Darby hop on over across the ponds as well. We got to see Jennifer Fessler, and we got to see, there was somebody else, Alexa Napola. I think she's from Real Housewives in Miami. Remember, I didn't want to watch Real Housewives in Miami, but I may get into it now. But yeah, so there was just so many people there. And of course, Jackie was there, which isn't that a surprise? Jackie and Teresa could not stand each other. Literally was going to tear each other's hair out, and she got an invite and actually came. It's amazing how things happen. So, and you could forgive her of the so-called metaphor. Surely you can have a conversation with your real sister-in-law and your brother. Just saying. But yeah, we get to see everybody coming in. Now, of course, Danielle at this point says, I'm not mentioning anything about Joe or Melissa because I'm staying out of it, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but you were the one that dropped the information, but I just found that was really cute that she would stay out of it. Yes, right. But yeah, it was quite interesting. Definitely there was a lot of emphasis, I thought, in the conversations prior to the buildup for, the toast and just throughout that I didn't mention before. But there was a lot of conversation about the partnership between Teresa and Louis. And I thought that was quite interesting. There was a whole thing about the leveling up. It was a whole thing about how they saw each other at, the same level, which I think it was Louis' younger brother had shared that. And they're very connected with that concept. So we'll see how things come on later on, because we know there's some business dealings and stuff that took place that did not do so well. And I think they should stop doing business with family. That did not work out well before. And I don't think it was going to work out well now. But yeah, because what happens to that pizza parlor? There was a pizza parlor a few seasons back, and that started and ended within 2 episodes. So yeah, I think that we should just stop with that altogether. But yeah, there was just so much. Now let's see what else we had going on. We saw Frank Italian son, Junior, right? And he was there. Oh, he's a nice guy. But yeah, so a lot of family members were there for sure. And let's see. I guess what that brings us over to everybody getting seated and kind of seeing where things are going. Oh, and then we have the conversation about the hair, right? I mentioned the hair earlier a little bit, but yeah, the hair. I thought it was great. What did you think? Let me know in the comment sections or the chat. Let me know. Would love to know. I thought the hair was great. I think the whole dress, the whole vibe, it was beautiful. Teresa threw a beautiful wedding. It was like 500,000 plus. So Teresa was basically saying to you, let me show you what one of those looks like. And I think she did a phenomenal job. The colors were gorgeous. The girls were gorgeous. The men were gorgeous. I should say ladies and men. Just everybody looked so good. The colors were great. It was absolutely stunning. The venue was stunning. It was an outdoor wedding in 93 degrees, but you know what? It was still beautiful. And I could only imagine in New Jersey heat, because I'm from New York, I could only imagine how uncomfortable that must have been. And it looked like it was like high noon. But nevertheless, everybody was a trooper and everybody hung in there. And it was absolutely stunning. It was so beautiful. And I think that Teresa made a good choice with the hair. Although, Jennifer did say, hey, look, I love her and all, but the hair is supposed to be kind of a, not a sidekick, but it's supposed to be like kind of an added feature, not the feature. But I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, it is what it is. And of course, her hair was like, had 1,500 pins in it. I mean, that's a lot of pins. And then not to mention, it was 3.5 hours to put it together, which that wasn't a big surprise, and $10,000 to do so. Now, wasn't a lot of that her hair? So yeah. But nevertheless, it was gorgeous. It looked well in pictures. And yeah, it's just nice. And as you can see here, I mean, it was great. It really was great. Then I think we're getting to the point where everybody is seated. And yeah, it was just everybody was getting ready to go. It was time to get the show off the road. But before and the daughters included, obviously, to see Teresa before she walks down the aisle, her beautiful getup, her gown and everything, and all of the wedding-esque, and it was really beautiful. It was really nice, and it was nice to see Teresa happy, because I like when Teresa's smiling. I don't like when Teresa's scowling. So this was really nice. And so, everybody's kind of getting themselves situated and seated, and then we get into the moment we all been waiting for, and that is Teresa to walk out the beautiful doors and walk to her Louis. The vows were beautiful. The ceremony itself was just, like I said, it was stunning. It was gorgeous. Margaret, oh my gosh, Margaret was crying so hard. And I was like, okay, why are you crying so much? But she was so, I guess, so moved. I don't know by what, but she was so moved. But it was beautiful. I think Jennifer Fessler, her friend, had teased that her and Louis were the ones who were crying the most. I mean, I don't even think Teresa was really crying, was she? I mean, yeah, it was just so funny how Margaret was just all there in that situation. But yeah, so of course the wedding was gorgeous. It was beautiful. And then everybody, after their I-dos are done, kind of filters in for the reception, which is what we're waiting for, right? The decor in there was absolutely exquisite as well. It was stunning. Everything, decorations, tables, everything. The people, it was so great. The food, so much food. And I have never seen a macaroni cheese that large on the table. It was fantastic. It was so well done. Whoever she had, her being Teresa, as helping her put that wedding together, A plus 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 all the way. It was beautiful, beautifully done, executed gorgeously. It really was. So yeah, so then we're going through that, and then as everybody is just kind of getting together and having a little bit of fun before Teresa's coming down. Margaret takes the girls aside, Jennifer Fessler and Jackie, and when they're watching Teresa, actually before the reception goes in full gear, them taking the pictures, and Jackie says, they look like they should be together. And I thought that was a really, really sweet, comment, because they do. And everybody agreed with that. And then Margaret, she's really torn about being there at the wedding, and she doesn't feel like she should be dancing it up and having a good time because Joe and Melissa, because you remember Joe and Melissa and Margaret are very close. And she just doesn't feel like this is something she can have so much fun at without them being there because it was so sad. And, Jennifer was like, well, I understand how you feel. Of course, Jackie understood it as well. But at the end of the day, this was between Melissa, Joe, and Teresa, and more importantly, Teresa and Joe. And I agree with the ladies on this one, and not so much with Melissa. Now, if you watch What Happens Live last week, Teresa was on there, and she was asked about that situation about Margaret and if she had left the wedding. And as we see later on, Margaret did leave the wedding early, and Jennifer unfortunately had to go because she was her ride. And I'll be honest with you, if I was Jennifer, I would have tried to find me another ride because I would have stayed. But I agree. I understand Margaret's loyalty to Melissa. I absolutely do, because they have been cool and kicking it since the beginning of Margaret's time on the show. But this is the problem when you're on the fence, right? This is the problem. When I say on the fence, not so much on the fence, but in neutrality. When you're trying to be friends with both sides, and it doesn't mean you can't do it, because you absolutely can. But it just means if you're going to show up, when you show up fully for that person. Now, Dolores, I appreciate her take on it, because also she is cool with Melissa too, and she thinks it's incredibly sad that they're not there. This is a moment they're never going to get back. I mean, and all cameras aside and production aside and Bravo aside, this was a real wedding with a real ceremony and a real coming together of families, and Joe and Melissa and their family were not there. So that's a problem, and that's going to be something that will forever be that way, and it's going to be sad, and there's no way to repeat those moments, right? So I understand, Margaret going, she got invited. Why should Margaret not go? Why should Margaret continue to celebrate with Teresa? I say, yeah, I'm sorry that is what they're going through, but I don't think Melissa was going to have a real issue. She knew Margaret was going. I don't think she had any kind of expectation. And if she did, she would have been wrong to feel like they should not go and have a fully good time, because this, again, has nothing to do with them. And your loyalty and everything is great to have, but this is not a place that card needed to be played. At the end of the day, you want to be friends with both Teresa and Melissa, and I applaud that. So Teresa invited you to that wedding, you stay at that wedding, and you stay there, you have a good time, you support her all the way through, and you there to throw the whatever they throw at the end. I don't think they do rice anymore, but whatever, blow the bubbles, whatever, you stay there all the way to the end, or until a point that you're leaving because your feet are hurting and you can't dance no more, but you don't leave because you're upset because a family member was not able to be there, because like Jennifer said, Margaret, that has nothing to do with you. She's right. It had nothing to do with her. She had no need to leave on that front. So I thought that was not good, and that's going to cause for some rift later on unnecessarily. I get that she wanted to be there for her friend, but at the end of the day, I don't think that this is something that should be asked of her to do in solidarity. I mean, give me a break. So yeah, it was just one of those things that just unfortunately it shouldn't have went down the way that it did, but unfortunately it did. And so as we are seeing, Margaret at that point, it's like, well, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So I'm thinking maybe she might, but although I already know that she really did leave. But at the end of the day, she was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So you're leaving us to believe that maybe she may just hang in there. And no, that's not what happened. But let's go back a little bit before then. Of course, now we're inside where I'm sure it's cooler and just vibrant with everybody seated. And Teresa's interesting entertainment layout was, one that I would not have expected from Teresa. I don't know. I'm not saying that Teresa's super modest or anything, but I don't know if I would have expected all of that. It just seemed like a lot with the whole burlesque themed element there. Yeah, but she wanted to be sexy, and she wanted the least amount of clothes as possible on those dancers. So that's what she got. I think she was very pleased. And so was probably a lot of the guests. And some of the guests were probably like, okay. But nevertheless, it was beautiful. They had a great time. You had women in champagne glasses. I mean, how many people see that in a day? And yeah, so it's definitely one that we'll remember. If nothing else, we'll remember that reception. But so we get to the point where we get all that wonderfulness that is shown. But in the midst of that, all of the phones at the same time drop. in the sense that now we are seeing all these articles popping up, and apparently Instagrams are popping up, and all of this stuff about Joe and Melissa's perspective about how they, felt betrayed and angered about the situation, how the Instagram party that they were having was more fun than what a wedding would be. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was a lot that just pop, 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 pop into that scene. Jennifer is freaking out. Louis is losing his stuff as usual. And I remember just sitting there watching. I say remember like it was like a year ago or something. I'm sitting there watching and I'm just trying to understand, why is Louis so upset? I mean, I just thought it was so over the top. It was so over the top, the whole, hey, they said one more thing, if they drop one more thing. And I'm just sitting there, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm going to bury them. Bury them where? What exactly are you going to do? Well, you're going to throw some more stuff out there on social media and say more things about their private business? Don't you have a lot of business may not want to be aired out there? Doesn't Teresa have a lot of private business that she may not want to be aired out there? Do we not want to, at some point, do we want to stop the embarrassment? I just thought it was so over the top. And then it was like, oh my gosh, we got to protect Teresa because Teresa somehow became this fragile individual. Teresa could take care of herself, but whatever. Everybody is like on mode and they're just, oh my gosh. But I just did not understand Louis' volcanic reaction. I just thought, okay, I mean, maybe, just like, okay, well, it is what it is. Let's just not let Teresa see it. Let's just stay focused with what we got going on. It is what it is. We'll deal with it later or not, blah, blah, blah. But I guess that wouldn't be a show, huh? See how Louis is good for TV? Anyway, so yeah, so they managed to somehow, I guess they made sure that Teresa didn't have her phone and they managed somehow to keep that away from Teresa, which I'm sure now she's seen everything, heard everything, because I don't know when this wedding was. But yeah, so now she comes out in her second change of dress. It was just as beautiful as the first one. Everybody's having a good time. They're enjoying themselves, and they do the whole cake thing, and that was beautiful. The cake itself was beautiful. I mean, it was just really a good time, right? It was like a fun time. It was like a circus a little bit. You had the guy with the sword down the throat and all of that. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I would have enjoyed myself, quite frankly, would have enjoyed myself quite well. And I think Margaret was missing out. And I don't even know Margaret's had an opportunity to sit and eat the dinner because I don't even think she stayed long enough for that. Yeah, but that was that. But she did duck out. And yeah, it was just, it was a lot. But the wedding itself went off really without a hitch. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. Louis is just enamored with Teresa. I don't know what I was going to call her. Teresa. And so Teresa was for Louis. They're very excited. Louis always wants to be a grandparent. I don't know why we're rushing these young kids, really live your life. Teresa's like, hold the phone. I would like us to, enjoy ourselves. We can wait on the grandparent thing. So yeah, I mean, but it was beautiful. It was lovely. It was what it was. And of course, we didn't get a chance to see a little bit of a sneak peek of the reunion. So I would love to know if you're going to be watching, because I do plan on recapping, reviewing, and discussing my thoughts on that. And just, hopefully you guys will be there for that as well. It's a lot. It's a lot. It really is a lot. It's a lot going on around here. But yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful wedding. It was really nice to see it. I was wondering if we were going to get a chance to see it. And so it was nice that we were able to see it. And I think that, yeah, it really ended up being a really nice time. I mean, it really was. And I think that it would have been nice to see Teresa and Joe come together and, really just get past this nonsense that has been going on. But unfortunately, that's just not what it's going to be. And, one of these days we'll see things, I guess, unfold, hopefully in a positive direction, but it's not looking good, y'all. It really isn't. And I don't know, but I don't want to see a scenario where Teresa isn't there and when Melissa's not there. I want all of them there. I want them to really, truly put an effort into trying to repair their family rift, and let's just get on with it. Because honestly, a 10th year of this was enough. I don't want to see an 11th or a 12th. And yeah, I just don't. But I do want to do this. I would like to raise a toast to Teresa and Louie and wish them all the happiness in the world. Congratulations to them. I hope that everything that they ever want comes true. And yeah, congratulations. So there we have it. I'm excited for them, and I'm excited to see what great TV that Louise is going to bring to us, along with Teresa, because it's going to be an interesting dynamic. I think it's going to be very different than what it was with her and Joe, which was a lot of tension all the time. And so now we'll get to see a whole nother situation unfold. But it doesn't work without Melissa and Joe for me. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. So they need to figure that out. They need to take a pause, and come back at a time where it makes a lot of sense for them to stay together. So I think with that, I am going to bid you adieu. I'm so glad that if you got a chance to check out the live, that you enjoyed it, and I will know your thoughts. And if you are here for the recap, leave me your thoughts. I want to know if you got a chance to watch it. What you think of the wedding, with the highs and the lows that you thought? And yeah, just go ahead and leave those in the comments, because I'd love to know how you feel, what you think about that. And I'm so appreciative of you being here. Again, if you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, be part of the family. There is so much coming out as far as reunions are concerned. Matter of fact, tonight is going to be the Vanderpump Rules first reunion episode, and I think there's 3 or 4 of them, something like that, but the first one is dropping, so I will be going live tomorrow. Y'all, it's gonna be something. I just have a feeling it's gonna be something. But yeah, hopefully you will be here for that. I am backed up a little bit on some of my other shows, like the Roa and also the Summer House of Martha's Vineyard. I will be catching up on that, I promise you. It has just been such a bear with a lot of things going on, lots of events going on in just real life, right? So but I do hope that you are doing well and staying safe and being blessed, because there's so much going on out there. And yeah, so just take care. And I think until next time, yeah, bye. Okay, see that didn't work. All right, here.